Can you imagine what a team would be like if there were not effective leaders? I'm sure you've had that happen perhaps in your professional world, even in your academic world, when you put teams together and try to work. You'll find that people's skills vary. A lot of what you're finding, perhaps, are problems with soft skills. Look at this photograph. This was the Miracle on the Hudson in January 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 made an emergency landing in the Hudson River. No one died. That, to me, is the best example ever of leadership and great teamwork. Let's look at some video from that crash. The video you're seeing here is from a Con Ed camera that was trained on the dock area near the Hudson, and then they zoomed in to the accident area. So you can see the people who are exiting the plane through the doors and the ramps there, the blow-up ramps, and they're getting out onto the wing in the freezing cold weather. No one died. Yes, some people were injured. Some ended up in the river for a few moments. Ultimately, boats came and rescued the people. Can you imagine a team in which people did not listen, did not take direction, did not understand, did not communicate well, had zero soft skills? What would have happened in this situation? Yes, this is extreme. But apply that to your teamwork that you do in your academic world, in your professional world. We're going to learn a little bit during Chapter 2 here about your listening skills as well as other soft skills that can make you an effective staff member and an effective team player. Why do you form teams? You do make better decisions overall. Your productivity builds because you have different skills, different talents brought to the table by all of the team members. Morale can be improved because you might be getting to the answers and coming up with project solutions more quickly. You do have faster response. People are less resistant to upsetting the apple cart, if you will. And there's reduced risk, meaning all of the people involved have the same risk and they want to succeed. And there's greater buy-in. Everybody's talents come to the table and then you succeed. We collaborate in virtual teams today, and that can be around the world or locally. When your teams get together, there are those 4 phases you might have heard about in other courses. You form the team and you build some trust, you get to know each other, you share contact information. Sometimes you select your members and sometimes you're just thrown together. Then you storm, you brainstorm your ideas, you get information together. Everybody has to do their part there, as well as set the goals for the team. Then you come out with some criteria and your alternatives. You discuss your alternatives. You evaluate all of the information that you're putting together. And then you perform, hopefully on all cylinders, to use a car analogy. You find the answers to all of the problems and you manage that problem. So, forming, storming, norming, performing. When your team's together, the positive behavior that you look for obviously are setting the rules, abiding by the rules, doling out the tasks, coming up with the problems, assimilating all of the information that you need to answer questions and solve problems. You must show interest and listen actively. Sometimes you have to put that game face on because sometimes you don't always agree. Then you synthesize, put together those points of agreement everyone can agree on. You likely have been on a team where there's been that negative behavior, and maybe you've been that person. You are the no person. You block the ideas of others, or you hear someone else do that. There are sometimes really bad behaviors going on, including insults and criticism. Time gets wasted. Sometimes there are inappropriate comments that just don't belong in the team. And you have to stay on task. Sometimes teams get along really great, but then they end up wasting time. And then there's always the person that disappears. That's always a huge problem. Diversity is key in teams, and that helps you combat groupthink. When you all bring different elements to the table and have different ages, genders, experience, training, you all help combat any kind of groupthink that can happen. And you will come up with a decision that can be implemented by everyone, and everyone will be on board with that. How do you solve problems within a team? Listen and understand the problem. Don't interrupt when somebody's trying to explain their point. Understand those points of view. Care as much as you can to show that you value the team and your tasks at hand. Find some common ground and try to find some new strategies to solve those problems. Then reach agreement based on what is mostly fair. When you put together virtual meetings and face-to-face meetings, many times there are no agendas and nobody's keeping time. So make sure that you can put together a meeting and participate in a meeting that will be valuable to everyone. Use your calendar, distribute the agenda, and make sure everyone is on board with whatever technology is being used for that meeting. If you're the one running the meeting, make sure you start on time. Make sure there's someone keeping notes. Engage everyone so that they participate. Confront conflict frankly. Use terms like, well, let's put a pin in that. We'll put that idea in the parking lot and get back to it later. And summarize along the way. Then as soon as possible, after the meeting ends, review the decisions, get those meetings emailed to everyone, and remind people of the actions that they said they would take care of. And then always follow up on all of the things that you need to get done. Of course, when you're on the other side and participating in a meeting that someone else is running, be on time. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. Be positive, contribute, listen to people, let them finish, don't interrupt. And be calm, have that business game face on, be positive, pleasant, and energetic. Did you ever have to do a phone conference and nobody knows what's going on because you're all on the phone and somebody's got their dog barking, someone's eating something, opening some noisy candy? Decide how to and when to mute phones. Try not to multitask when that conference call is going on, even though you're not involved in that particular part of the meeting. Ask your specific questions and give everyone a chance to do a round robin as you wrap up and engage everyone's ideas. Make sure you identify yourself as you're speaking. This is Brenda, and I have a question about the last point that was made by Ellen. Something like that. We're diving into the details of listening now. It is a career-critical soft skill that is completely underrated. We have to listen and put in the effort. We are poor listeners. Good listeners make good managers. This is a statistic that shocks me every time I see it. I hope it shocks you. Poor listening habits. 50% of what you hear every day is lost. You don't hear it. Crazy, right? We listen only at 25% efficiency. We do not get training in listening. You have to be responsible to learn this soft skill. And then there are conflicting stimuli out there. There can be construction, somebody yelling down the hall, another conversation 10 feet away from you that's happening. All of that interferes in how you understand the messages. We process speech much faster than others can speak. How do you build your listening skills? There are 10 tips here in this chapter. Control all of that noise and distractions that you can be involved in. Be active, an active listener. Zone in on what that person or people are saying. There are facts, there are opinions. You have to try to process that. Develop those bullet points that you hear. Take notes and avoid interrupting. The next 5 tips, clarifying questions. Did I hear you say that right? Did you mean this or did you mean this? And that helps clarify something that they might have said that you didn't understand. Paraphrase so that the person hears back what you heard and maybe they didn't say it right, so they'll say it again in another way. And when there's lag time, jump in. That's when you can add your 2 cents. and of course take notes. And there are differences in people. Everybody acts differently, whether it's male, female, old, young, etc.